Seokjin, known to millions simply as Jin, isn't just back. He's dominating. In a stunning surge of online frenzy, hashtags like #JIN, #BTS and #Seokjin have rocketed to the top of US Twitter trends, signaling not just a return, but a renaissance of his global influence. And it didn't come from manufactured hype or PR machines. It came from the hearts of fans and the undeniable power of his post-military artistry. Jin's name lighting up American digital skies isn't a one-time fluke. It's a roaring declaration that the eldest member of BTS has stepped into his solo chapter not as an idol emerging from a shadow, but as an artist already standing tall in his own spotlight. With his solo EP Happy dropping in November 2024 and the follow-up Echo earlier this year, Jin has offered the world a personal, vulnerable, and vocally breathtaking look into the man behind the worldwide phenomenon. His return was anticipated, but no one expected this level of cultural shockwave. American media outlets, music influencers, and even late-night talk shows have joined the global fandom's chorus, echoing the same sentiment. Jin's voice feels like home in a world on fire. And maybe that's why the US, a market notoriously difficult for Asian soloists to break into, has opened its arms wide for him. Not just with likes and retweets, but with sincere admiration. The numbers speak volumes, but the emotions speak louder. When fans pushed Jin's hashtags to the top, they weren't just celebrating a new song or comeback. They were screaming to the world that healing, comfort, and sincerity still matter. And Jin embodies all three. Clips of him performing The Astronaut, Epiphany, and Moon have resurfaced across platforms, not as nostalgia bait, but as reminders of the timeless quality of his voice, one that gently demands your attention without ever shouting. This wasn't a marketing miracle. It was authenticity rewarded. Jin's image, unpolished in the best ways, grounded, and always emotionally transparent, has remained untouched by the pitfalls of superstardom. Even now, as a solo artist climbing charts and shattering expectations, he wears humility like a second skin. Industry insiders are already whispering about award season. Could Jin be on track for an international music honor? The timing aligns. The momentum is real. And if there's one thing history has proven, it's that when Jin moves, the world watches. More than a trend, more than a name, Jin is a movement. And America, it seems, is finally catching up to something the rest of the world already knew. You don't need to understand Korean to understand Jin's impact. As the digital world continues to echo his name, major US publications are beginning to re-examine their narratives. Long focused on BTS as a collective force, the spotlight is now narrowing, sharp, direct, and reverent, onto Jin as a singular artistic presence. Gone are the days of labeling him simply as the eldest member, or the visual. Instead, music analysts are describing his solo work as emotionally meticulous, unexpectedly vulnerable, and deeply mature. There's a shift happening in real time, and it's not manufactured. It's earned. The emotional undercurrent of Echo, his most recent release, has struck a particular chord with international audiences. Unlike the bombast of typical pop offerings, Jin's music lingers. It breathes. It hurts in all the right places and heals even when you didn't know you needed it. Critics are praising its stripped-back arrangements, delicate crescendos, and lyrics that feel less like performance and more like confession. And perhaps that's Jin's greatest strength. He never sings at you. He sings to you. And in doing so, he disarms even the most skeptical of listeners. Major streaming platforms have taken notice. Spotify's curated playlists have quietly, but intentionally, started including his tracks alongside Western heavyweights, placing his ballads between those of Lewis Capaldi and Ed Sheeran, without fanfare, but with a clear message. This man belongs here. Not as a guest. Not as a novelty. As appeared on YouTube, his live stages from past BTS tours are experiencing a resurgence. Not just from loyal armies, but from new viewers who stumble across Jin High Note compilation and leave forever changed. Reaction videos flood the algorithm, some in disbelief, some in tears, all in awe. It's no longer surprising to see comments like, "Why did no one tell me he was this good?" or "This voice saved me tonight." Meanwhile, Jin himself remains largely silent amid the online storm. No performative posts, no desperate thirst for attention. Just the occasional photo, a quiet thank you, a bow of gratitude through his eyes. And maybe that's why the world clings to him. In a landscape cluttered with noise, Jin is the calm, the quiet power, the artist who doesn't have to chase the world because the world is already running toward him. Record labels, sensing the global shift, are now paying attention to metrics they once overlooked. Jin's US streams are climbing. His fanbase, once underestimated as niche, is revealing its true strength, not just in numbers, but in dedication. Billboard analysts are closely watching the charts, and the question is no longer if he'll break into the top 10, it's when. And it's not just about the music. Fashion houses are circling back. Luxury brands that once courted Jin during BTS's group reign are once again reaching out, but this time with solo campaigns. Because Jin doesn't just represent a face. He represents class, elegance, a soft kind of masculinity that challenges norms without ever needing to shout. From Dior to Fred jewelry, from Paris runways to casual airport fashion, Jin has quietly become a muse. Even Hollywood is whispering. Rumors of invitations to appear on US talk shows, documentaries, and even voiceover opportunities for animated features are beginning to swirl. And though nothing is confirmed, one thing is certain: Jin is no longer just a Korean artist crossing over. He is now a global fixture, woven into the cultural fabric of millions outside his homeland. It's a phenomenon that has no easy comparison. Other artists return from military service and fade into the periphery. Jin returned and made the world stop, and as his name continues to rise in search trends, playlists, and public consciousness, one can't help but wonder, was this the plan all along? Or is this simply what happens when someone so authentic, so gifted, and so emotionally fluent steps back into the light? Because this isn't just a comeback. This is a recalibration of what it means to be a global star in 2025. As the dust settles from his explosive re-entry into the spotlight, one truth is becoming painfully clear to those who doubted. Jin never needed to reinvent himself. He only needed space to reveal the layers the world had yet to discover. And now that the veil has lifted, it's impossible to look away. Across fan bases, Jin's resurgence has sparked a ripple effect, reigniting interest not only in his solo discography, but in his earliest works with BTS. Songs like Awake, Epiphany, and Moon are climbing back onto viral charts, reminding both old fans and newcomers of the emotional potency he's carried since the very beginning. These aren't relics of the past, they're blueprints of the artist he was always meant to become. Today in New York, murals are popping up on subway station walls. In Tokyo, digital billboards flash images of Jin's serene face, coupled with the words, "the voice that heals." In Sao Paulo, a flash mob performs The Astronaut with tearful sincerity. These are not marketing stunts. These are tributes. Global fan-led love letters to a man who has never demanded affection but now receives it in overwhelming waves. And amidst this cultural tidal wave, Jin remains unchanged. When seen at the airport, he still bows to fans. When asked about success, he still credits those around him. And when he steps on stage, whether in front of thousands or a small studio audience, he performs not for applause, but for connection. The Korean media has taken notice too. Local outlets report with pride that Jin's impact abroad is bringing renewed attention to Korea's musical depth, not just its idols, but its artists. University professors of music and psychology have started citing his vocal delivery and lyricism in academic papers about emotional resonance and cross-cultural healing. They call it the Seokjin effect, the way his music bypasses language and pierces through emotional walls. But make no mistake, this isn't just a moment. This is a long overdue recognition, a validation of a voice that for years quietly carried some of BTS's most soul-bearing performances, often without the same spotlight. And now that spotlight is his. Fully. Finally, HYB, his agency, is rumored to be planning a solo world tour, something once thought improbable for a balladeer in the age of flashy production and dance-heavy spectacles. But that's exactly why it works. Jin doesn't need gimmicks. He doesn't need pyrotechnics or backup dancers to hold a crowd. He just needs a microphone, a stage, and silence, because once he sings, the world listens. Industry giants are already recalibrating their expectations for solo male acts in 2025. The mold has been shattered. Jin isn't just thriving despite being a soft-voiced, emotionally raw artist in a hyper-digital age, he's thriving because of it. In a world oversaturated with noise, Jin has become the sound of stillness we didn't know we craved. And perhaps that's the most poetic part of it all. After 2 years of mandatory silence, imposed by military service, Jin has returned not to speak louder, but to speak truer. And in doing so, he's become the voice of a generation once again. Only this time, it's his own. This is not the story of a comeback. This is the story of a man who waited his turn, then rewrote the rules the moment he